Hi, everyone. How are you?
Good.
Good to see you guys here. I'm Stephanie Vandenberg. I am the SVP of Revenue for Verve Group. Verve Group is an end-to-end solution on the open internet. We make media better for advertisers by doing more with less. We solve today's marketers' problems by driving efficiencies without compromising quality or outcomes. We lead in transparency with our direct supply integration, delivering savings so marketers can drive more media engagement versus fees. And as a European-based company, we also bring tried and true post-cookieless world solutions, audience targeting solutions to market called Visual Intent, as well as Atom. So happy to be here. First time I've ever been to Art Basel. It's fabulous. If you haven't had a chance to check out the art, definitely recommend you do so. I think that this is going to be an event that maybe takes over South by Southwest, potentially gives a challenge to CES, even potentially becomes a competitor to Cannes because it's beautiful. So I'm really happy to be here with these lovely ladies and have had some time to prep and discuss kind of careers and philosophies on leadership. And with that, I'll hand it over to make your introduction, Janina.
Sure. Hi, I'm Janina Lundy. I am head of emerging audience development at Amazon Studios and Prime Video, which means that I focus on Black, Latino, young adult, and faith audiences and how to acquire and retain them across marketing, content, and product.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chantel Ghosh. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at the Miami City Ballet. We are a top 10 ballet company. We have 53 professional dancers. We have a professional training program. We have a baby bunhead school. So they're not professional yet, but they're really darn cute. And we are here in South Beach. The Miami City Ballet is just a very sultry 25-minute sweaty walk. So just be glad I'm here and it's not a puddle and some red hair. But we are navigating the post-COVID world because if you were in live events during COVID, you know the existential challenges that faced. I haven't always worked in the arts. I'm a recovering lawyer. I practiced law for 10 years and have worked in for-profit and non-for-profit production house theater. So if you've seen Hadestown, my theater built that before it went to London and New York. If you've seen Six, the Broadway queens were my queens. So have kind of had a very non-linear path to bring me here to Miami in the heat.
Yeah, and while most of the discussions and panels have been around innovation, NFTs, Web 3.0, and innovation, we're going to talk about kind of what our superpower is for marketing and marketing leadership as women. As we discussed, you're not so surprised when you meet a woman CMO or a woman female head of humans, chief people officer. But when you look at other areas within business, such as CEOs, chief financial officers, there's a little less of that. And so, I don't know, Chantel, would you like to kind of share your perspective on why you think that may be the case?
Well, I think there's two ways to look at it. There's one that we might want to believe or like to believe. There's one that might be true and maybe don't want to believe. I think in any challenging, a corporate environment, legal environment, in medicine, you tend to see pink areas of the law. So when I practiced law, that was family law, that was employment law. When you are in the executive roles in the corporate world, it's HR, it's marketing. Some of that is changing, but I think, if you just to look at the Forbes list, you'll see it isn't changing a lot. And so I don't know if that's because it feels like a path of least resistance for professional women who, want to advance in leadership. Is it nature? Is it nurture? I think the positive side of that, so this might be the part we want to believe, and we can lean into this, is socially women are conditioned to be storytellers, to be networkers, to see things in a non-linear way, to see how things are relational, and marketing is all about that. It's telling the story and connecting and differentiating stories, and how do we, there's the technical side of it, but ultimately you have to tell a story. And I think women are fantastic storytellers because they get to the nugget of what people care about and how to make it, relevant. So whether that's nature or nurture, that's a whole other conversation. But it is something that, at my age, I look and I say, this hasn't changed. It isn't changing. It's not changing fast enough. And do we lean into the good of it and keep pushing.
Janina, your role is reaching the right audiences to make sure they're tuning into the stories that Amazon is creating. When you think about what I talked about, fact is women are CMO, marketing leaders, and heads of human more than the CFO roles. What are your thoughts along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I feel like all of that makes sense. I think the thing that I would add is just that there's a need to reach back, whether you fit the same group or not, to help mentor and bring along women or people of color into some of those roles. And I think that's the piece that maybe is missing and where there's a disconnect is starting to grow that. But I do think we're starting to see more and more people who come from a CMO role and move into a CEO role. Like in my industry, at least, you see that with Allison Hoffman at Stars, who was CMO there for a long time and then is now president of the platform and network. So I think there's people are starting to see the value and understanding of marketing and moving that into marketing and operations and eventually into a CEO role.
So now that we know we're breaking the glass ceiling, so to speak, and doing a fine job on that, for some reason, as a small child, I loved looking at magazines. I loved looking at ads. I knew they told a story. They could be persuasive, creative, and I just always knew I wanted to get into advertising and marketing. And I've just led my soul in that direction for my career. How, Janina, did you find yourself in your career in marketing?
Yeah, I didn't have that. I wanted to be, first, always an actress.
Oh.
So as a kid, I was always in theater and always wanted to be in that world. And then my dad told me that I needed to get a realistic career. And so I decided I was going to be a film director. And somehow he was okay with that as an option. So that had always been my intention, was to go to film school and create content. And for a variety of reasons involving a broken ankle and me having to stay home from school for a semester, I ended up starting to take some marketing classes and really liked it. And then moved into marketing and started a career in marketing. But I like to think that it's kind of all come together now since I'm marketing content and television and movies. So without the uncertainty, the same level of uncertainty, I guess I should say, particularly with the way things are right now, but without the same level of uncertainty as I would have had in that career path. So I think it's the best of both worlds.
I think for me, the time that I've spent in various careers, like I said, a very nonlinear path, has kind of created this weird Swiss Army knife of skills that I've ended up in marketing. Ultimately, you're always a storyteller and you're leaning into evidence and data. So whether I was a lawyer or whether I've worked in brand and marketing, it's the same kind of thing I'm doing and trying to convince somebody who doesn't necessarily want to be convinced to do the thing I want them to do. I mean, I practiced law for 10 years because I think there was the intellectual challenge. There's certainly, all the reasons you go to law school or you go to med school, this idea that this is a very well-lauded profession and you're going to, get into it and it's going to be great. And it was not. If anyone knows any lawyers, they keep track of their entire life in 6-minute increments called point ones, and it's hell. And nothing really ever happens. You never get to the end of the damn story. But for me, and this is my epiphany moment, it was like a slap. We're in a big room like this. I was part of a big round table seminar where they brought people from all sorts of different backgrounds to come together and talk about, sort of like the Gallup Strength Finders thing. And we all did these profile questionnaires. And it was 2 graphs. One was, what are your key traits, the core of who you are as a person? And the other was, what are the key traits that are required in your profession, that you see, in your profession? And so there was 2 graphs. And we all did this, and we didn't see our results. And they started to put them up in front of 200 people on a screen, and they anonymized it, so the names weren't up there. But we had gotten an envelope, so we were told to open our envelopes. And they're going through and talking about different people, and they bring one up, and it says, okay, this is this person's core strengths. This is what you see in 99% of sales and marketing people. And this is their core traits of the job that they're in, which is what you see in 99% of lawyers. and they were total opposite. And the person up there was a psychologist and expert, says essentially this person turns himself inside out every day when they go to work. And I looked and it was my profile. So that was my epiphany moment in front of 200 people going, oh, that was me. Yeah, I don't like this job at all. So then I moved to I built a communications firm that dealt crisis communications. All my legal clients came with me. Then I started doing fun stuff for them, not just, oh, you've poisoned someone or there's a tainted blood scandal. And then it just kind of has pieced together like a string of pearls where I've ended up working, in travel, tourism, entertainment, and it's way more fun than law.
So non-linear approach, linear approach, linear approach. Well, you talked about fun. The perfect scenario is having a job that you love and you're passionate about, and you have fun every day you wake up and you look forward to it. What do you love about your job?
Well, for me, arts have been always really important. They're an important part of building vibrant communities, vibrant downtowns, of connecting people from different backgrounds. What I love about my job now with Miami City Ballet is not only taking a very traditionally sort of viewed art form, it's not all tutus and tiaras, but some of it is, and new works, and trying to connect a very new audience to a very old form of the art. So you have to get really curious about who do you want in your audience? Who's not there? Whose story isn't being told? It's not about telling them why they should like ballet. It's about creating art that they care about. So that's really exciting, and it's very disruptive. It may not sound disruptive, but when you're talking about art forms that are 200 years old and all of the stuff is a lot of dead guys for the most part, it's pretty darn disruptive. So I love that. I'm the bull in the ballerina shop.
I think, first of all, in general, I just love the industry that I'm in. I love content. I love TV. I watch way too much. It's embarrassing. Like, it sort of feels like if I can watch that much TV, like, how do I have a life or a job? But, so I think, like, that's number one. And I always say, like, sometimes I always ask, and I'm interviewing people, what are they watching? What content are they excited about? And the number of people who say I don't watch TV is, like, flabbergasting to me when you're interviewing for a job that's in this industry. But anyway, so I feel like if you're in this, you should love the content. So I think that's the big piece. And then in particular to my role, I'm championing diverse storytellers, diverse stories, diverse talent in everything that I'm doing, and making sure that people feel seen on screen. So I love being a part of that.
Yeah, what I really admire about both of your roles and what you do and your careers today is how you have purpose in what you're doing. So whether it's helping the underprivileged find the love of ballet and dance and have an opportunity to succeed and be educated in that sense, to whether it's having the unrecognized, underrepresented audiences be seen as well, is really awesome. So thanks for what you do from those terms. Next question is, ready? Okay. What are some of your biggest challenges you faced in your career?
I think there's a couple things. I think, first of all, learning, this is probably in my career and in my entire life, which is just like picking my battles. I think, and like not taking things so personally. I think that's been something that I've grown as my career has progressed. And it's something that I feel like I'm constantly teaching to people that are on my team, understanding where we're going to pick our battles, where the real opportunities are, and really kind of staying focused on objectives. I think also almost from like a personal standpoint, it's been when to make a move. I think there's been a lot of roles that I've stayed in a little bit longer than I should have, whether it was like fear of where to go next, or feeling like, it was just very comfortable. And so I think figuring out when it's time to move, and even if it's within the same company and growing within the organization, I think understanding that has been a challenge for me.
Mm.
So when I think of challenges, I think there's, any problem you have is one of two categories. One, is it a tragedy, or one, is it an inconvenience? So lots of challenges that are inconveniences. I would say that in terms of challenges that are tragedies, beyond, trying to be an existential crisis during COVID with keeping all your people whole in the arts. The biggest challenge for me was probably when I was working for Spirit. I was running brand. And in the period of a year, I dealt with the Pulse nightclub shooting, the mass shooting in Fort Lauderdale and Las Vegas, so 3 mass shootings, and 4 or 5 hurricanes where we were trying to figure out how to get people off of islands that, had medical devices that they couldn't power because there was no power and there was no airports. That is the challenge. That is, to me, everything else is just a riddle. It's just a problem to be solved. It's just, you choose a different path. You're the water, not the rock. So nothing else feels really all that hard after you deal with truly tragic things. It's just get curious and figure out the problem. It's just ballet, for crying out loud.
But from that perspective, you're no longer just a marketer, you're a problem solver, which is what a marketer is, right? But you also have to shift into an operational mode, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, just the nature of marketing now is that you own all the assets. You own the communication channels. You know how to communicate with people. You have the ability to reach people in these really difficult times. And so you're like, how do I text all of our passengers to find out who might need assistance, find their families, where, all of those kinds of things that you get full emergency management mode. That is not what you're technically do, but you own all of that, all of the capability. So you just step in and do it. And it's very much a brand piece of work. How you handle things like that, I think, affects your brand more than anything else.
Crisis management.
Yeah, I think that's something that we're all thinking about more and more. I think as we're even developing social campaigns and thinking about, if things happen that are mass shooting or racial injustice or whatever's going on in the world, where do we chime in and how do we engage? And that's definitely a challenge.
And there's much more of that these days, and it's been much more frequent and compressed. So now we talked about your challenges. What are you most proud of achieving in your career? And this could be, a job that you landed that it was really a long shot for you to go for. It could be a business challenge that you solved. I think we just touched on a little bit about that, but Janina, do you want to touch on anything you're really proud of, something that you accomplished?
Sure. I think the launch of BET Plus, so BET decided to launch a streaming platform. I had been at BET on the linear side, leading marketing for 2 years, and then moved over to run marketing and operations on the BET Plus side. And I think it was such a small team, such a small startup within BET, within what was then Viacom CBS. But it was like we were this small and mighty, 25-person team, basically, operating a streaming platform. And it's pretty crazy, all the things that we achieved and getting the subscribers that we did way ahead of our projections. I'm really proud of the work that I did and that the team did there. And seeing the way that they're growing now. BET Plus is one of our channels partners at Amazon, and so we do some work together. But I'm really proud of what they've been able to accomplish and what I did when I was there. So yeah.
So you actually became a platform developer too?
Yeah, I've had a couple roles like that in my life, like that one. And then I was talking earlier about this video subscription platform that I worked on years ago called Voyeur. And it was daily episodes from a celebrity's life during a major event. And I was saying it was with Kanye West during the Watch the Throne tour. And I had, before that, it was an ad agency. I had worked on the advertising side, and I had worked in experiential marketing. But on that project, I was on the ground producing content every day, making sure that we were integrating Jeep into the content because they were a sponsor, trying to figure out how to market a platform, how to build a platform, just really kind of 360. I still do not understand how I had that job. But yeah, there's been a lot of learning on the job and learning things that I had no idea about all throughout my career.
So your superpower is just doing it and getting it done.
I guess so. I do. Yeah. Get her done.
Get her done.
Kicking ass and taking names. That's why you had the job. You kicked ass, you took names, done. I mean, you can look back and there's lots of, specific campaigns or KPIs you're proud of. I think for me, if I look at the whole of the work that I've done, it's all about the relationships that I've built and the people I've collected over the last 15 years. I don't mean collected in like a weird Silence of the Lambs way. I mean, I have, whether it's team members that I've developed and have gone on, totally to a different industry or to a competitor or wherever, or partners that, we've done great community engagement things throughout the careers, that I have relationships that started with a work thing 25 years ago who I know that I can call on them in any new iteration and say, hey, can we do this? That I've just got this, been able to build this incredible network of folks, including the people that I've met through Brand Innovators. So I think as a whole, that's the thing I'm most proud about, because it's very much about the long game.
So being leaders in marketing, having impressive careers, getting it done, have you had any mentors, whether it's within your industry, a peer, or somebody that you admire outside of your industry that's kind of been your North Star?
I think for me, it's not a person. I've had a number of mentors at different times in my stage, different roles, who have both women and men who have stepped in, who have been great path clearers, who have kind of had difficult, courageous conversations with me when need be about, how do I show up better? I've learned so much from people that have reported to me that have managed up to me very, very well in terms of how I can be a better leader towards them. So I've been really blessed that way. And really wonderful folks who, especially in my law practice, I worked in a very male-dominated area, that just were incredible path clearers and were great allies. I mean, I'm an old lady. This was 20 years ago. We're great allies in terms of recognizing I face barriers that were invisible to most men, and that was wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot throughout my career. I think some people that come to mind, I mean, there was the CEO of Global Hue, which was the ad agency I was just talking about, who gave me that opportunity to be producing all that content and really expanding my skill set. And I think he really saw where my skills were and really let me grow and make mistakes. And learn. And so I think he was a really big champion for me and a big mentor. At BET, the person who was the CMO at the time who brought me on, Janine Liburd, she was been a wonderful mentor and supporter and somebody that I run things by all the time. But there's been people all throughout my career, and I do agree that there's people who've been on my teams who, have gone on to do amazing things, and we talk now as peers on a regular basis, and they've taught me so much. And half the time I don't know what I'm talking about, and they do. So there you go.
I can relate to that. I always try to hire people smarter than me that I can learn from. And I do think, a really important leadership quality is to empower your people to really spread their wings and fly and give them chances that might be a long shot, that challenge them so they can grow and then you grow with them. Do you mentor anyone currently? Do you participate in any kind of nonprofit or mentorship program?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking earlier about how I do like a weekly conversation with a potential mentee just to provide support for younger professionals, and then there's a couple people who I'm working with consistently on an ongoing basis who will reach out. And then I've acted as a mentor in various programs, particularly focused on diverse women. So there was a program called WEEN that was helping to get young women of color into the entertainment industry, and I've participated in that. I try to figure out ways that I can do larger groups of people at a time. So sometimes I might do a mentoring call once a month and talk to a group of women. Not that it has to be just women, but it does tend to go that way a lot of times. But a group of women at one time so that they can actually learn from each other, and I can touch more people at one time.
From a formal mentorship standpoint, I've been lucky to sit on some really great boards, both in travel and tourism, governance boards. And when you realize how few women are getting those opportunities to be on boards, started working with an organization called Direct Her, HER. And it's an organization that actually does skills training for female professionals. So that makes them super board ready, because when you're applying for a board role and you've taken governance and you understand, are you a strategic board? Are you an operational board? What the fiduciary responsibilities are, all of those things. It really gives a competitive advantage. And worked to find placements for all those women on boards. So that's sort of the formal mentorship. I've done a lot of that work that I think is really, really important, because boards make decisions that affect management teams, that affect agendas, that affect budgets, and that changes the world. Show me your time and money, and I'll show you what's important to you. So from a formal standpoint, informally, I really, really try and work with my team to make myself obsolete. So I always say on day one, my job is to make me obsolete. So that means all of you on this team are going to level up, and we're going and work really in a very purposeful way to get things off their plate to allow room for growth and to help them do that, because it's very hard to if there's no room on your plate, you can't put new things on, and help them mentor who's under them, then really create that as part of that development piece, because I think it's really absent in a lot of structures.
Yeah, I think we have very demanding careers, and it's hard to find the time. You have to be very conscious about finding the time to do that outreach and that mentorship. I personally want to do more next year, so I'm looking for the right organizations to kind of step in and to participate in. But I do want to give Chantel, I was thinking you might talk about the Miami City Ballet, because I learned so much from you today when we were chatting that I actually got chill bumps when you were talking about this program, because I had no idea that this existed. If you want to share, because I think that is mentorship.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously we have a professional company, it performs, it tours. That's the fancy part of what we do. We have a professional school. But what we aren't seeing is opportunity for historically excluded groups to train in ballet, to even attend the ballet, to be exposed to the arts in general. So one of the things that we do at Miami City Ballet, and it really comes from the push in our leadership. Our artistic director was a Cuban-born exile who came to Miami when she was young, and she's still, to this day, remains the only Latina that has been a principal dancer with the New York City Ballet with Balanchine. That's it. One Latina principal dancer. She's it. It's a very short Wikipedia entry. Her opportunity to dance came from, she was 2. She had a lot of malnourishment, a lot of physical issues, and her doctor here in Miami said she should do ballet to build her strength. Her family couldn't afford those lessons, and the church took up a collection to get her those lessons, and she wore leg braces, like Forrest Gump metal leg braces. And within a few years, she was strong enough from dance to be out of the leg braces. But she also was an amazing ballet dancer. Her family couldn't afford the classes anymore. The church wasn't going to pay for them because the medical need for them was gone. And Balanchine provided her George Balanchine gave her a full scholarship to the School of American Ballet in New York. And she is now, the head of top ballet in the world. Talent is distributed equally in every community. Work ethic is distributed equally in every community. Opportunity is not. So Miami City Ballet says, how do we start young? How do we start young and exposing these kids? So we have 2 programs. One's called Explore Dance, and it goes into Title I schools, and it's a free program, and it's after school, so it actually does provide after-school care. It goes for 8 weeks. Anyone can attend, and they learn about dance, and they do dance, and they watch dance. And after that 8 weeks, anyone who's interested can audition for our Ballet Bus program. The Ballet Bus program provides everything that an aspiring ballet dancer needs for 10 years of instruction. We commit to 10 years of instruction. That's the ride to and from the studio every day after school. That is your shoes, that is your clothing, that is coming to every single show so you can see professional ballet. And we commit for 10 years. And those are all Title I schools. It is changing who gets exposed to ballet. It is changing who gets to dance ballet. It will change our choreography. It will change the music that we connect to. And it's going to change our audience because we're creating something that wasn't there before, and it's an opportunity to see, to do, to train, to create. And this year, for the first year, because it's been 10 years, we have pre-professional students, so students who are in our professional training program to be professional dancers that have come up through the Ballet Bus program, and they haven't had to spend a cent on their training. They've got to go to the ballets, and they are dancing in some, the Nutcracker. If you come to the Nutcracker, you will see some of those students now dancing in the Nutcracker. That will change the art form. And not everyone's going to be a ballet dancer, but you don't know the value of the arts, of that discipline, of that athleticism, of that safe place to go every day after school if you come from certain communities, and we're working to change that. And that's something we do. That is an unfunded program we do just from our operational budget. So if anybody wants to sponsor that program, I am here all day, folks. But I'm really proud of that, because that speaks to the mission of a nonprofit and a charity. We're not just about producing beautiful works of art. That is wonderful. But it's how do we change the story of the art form, and whose stories we tell, and who gets to create and who gets to see. So I'm pretty proud of that.
It's really, it's inspiring. It's leadership in community, not just leadership in marketing. And I think all of us in this industry have the ability to do something powerful like that, because we have voices and we have channels, and we can find ways to make impact that are so inspiring and meaningful, and touch people's lives and change them forever. So I'm going to be a supporter, definitely. We have a few minutes left, so I'm going to think about one of the last questions here. If you could have 1, 2, or 3 women join your next panel or roundtable, who would they be and why? And it could be silly, serious, whatever you want it to be. Your favorite actresses in your Amazon Prime streaming show.
I think for me, I find it incredibly compelling when a strong, savvy woman creates a multi-genre, across, product category brand that transcends themselves. So, I would sit down with Oprah any day of the week. Right. So if she's listening, Oprah, I'm here for you. But that, those are to make a brand that is you but not you. That's pretty fantastic. I'd like to know about that. I'd like to know how to sell Chantel.
I think you're doing a pretty good job.
I mean, if that's where we're aiming, I actually think what the work Rihanna has done to build her brand, and she obviously has a show with us, Savage X Fenty on Prime Video, and I think the way she's been able to build her brand is amazing. So if that's where we're aiming, sure.
Yeah. We were talking about this earlier, kind of with a different perspective, but Taylor Swift, she's literally a rock star. She's amazing, powerful.
Yeah, and love her, hate her, she's the boss. She's a badass bitch. I'd hang with her too.
Smart woman, and a strong brand, really. Awesome. So we're sitting here in Miami. I think it's a wrap, right? We've got just a few more minutes for one last question from me, and then perhaps some questions from the audience. Okay. We're here in lovely Miami Beach. Some of us live here, some of us don't. What's your favorite all-time travel destination? Whether you've been there or not, and someplace you want to go.
Well, I would probably always pick Italy, but based on, I would pick Italy as all-time favorite, but I spend a ridiculous amount of time in Mexico. So I have to say that also. In all different areas of Mexico City, where I think is probably some of the best food ever in the world. So Mexico City, and I just came back from Todos Santos, which is an hour outside of Cabo. So I'm a big Mexico fan also.
So I'm a travel hound. This is a hard one for me, and I rarely go any place twice, like a big destination. I'm going to go with the trip I just got back from on Monday. Went to Jordan, went to Petra. And it was interesting because we flew into Tel Aviv and then had to cross the Israeli border into Jordan, and then did Petra, which was phenomenal, rode a mule, I'm glad to be alive. And then we went to Wadi Rum, which is in the desert where all the Bedouin tribes live, and stayed in a Bedouin camp with like surreal, y'all. Like camels are going by. It was, we're on sand dunes with a truck that was definitely not safe. We did all sorts of things that I just kept thinking I'm going to end up on the news, but it was a phenomenal experience. And then went to Israel and did like Jerusalem, like under the city, all the archaeological digs. And you know, regardless of what your affiliation is with any religion, that is the cradle of so much of what has pushed our civilization forward, and the stories that we have told, and has created the infrastructure, the patriarchy, whatever. But it was really, really interesting to see it live and up close. So that was my favorite, most recent trip. I'll take that one.
I'd like to go there as well. Morocco's on my wish list. I love Mexico too. Haven't done as much travel. I did watch a documentary on Mexico City and the chefs there and the food, and it's supposed to be phenomenal. So that's on my list as well. So I want to thank both of you for sharing your experience and your philosophy on marketing and leadership and your stories, because I think it's much easier to stand up on stage and talk about your products or your innovation. For those of you that did it, it's not that easy, I get it, but this is raw and it's more personal, and you shared kind of a side of you that we haven't really seen before. So I want to thank you for that, and have a great rest of your Art Basel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'll be in the corner if you want to come write me checks for Ballet Bus. I'm totally up for it.